Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a fun festive room. Hi, friends on Facebook Live. My name is Amanda Ugelmeyer, class of 2004, and I am one of 3 AADC Smart Talks team leads. They're in the corner back there, the wave. So thank you to them and helping us with our inaugural event today. This is the first, and we think we started out pretty great. We have wonderful guests today. Tina did want to go through the room real quick to welcome everyone personally, because there's a lot of fresh faces, and we're very excited about that. And we appreciate you coming out today. It really makes a big impact on what we're doing here. So we'll start here in the corner. We'll get to you, sir. Don't you worry.
No problem.
Oh, now you're eating. Miss Puma Harris is here. Go to the other.
Hi, I'm Pamela Johnson James, class of 76. And it's
Welcome.
great to be here looking at Lipton Copper.
Excellent.
Good. I'm on my
Come back
4
and visit
years.
more.
I'm Erin McShane. I'm part of McShane's Law.
Welcome. We're glad to have family as well.
I'm Barbara McShane, class of 74, and really glad to be here along with my roommate from freshman year in college. And we're here to support Jean, who was always a feature, at our dorm Woodbury freshman year, along with Tony, our across the hall roommate.
Oh, very good.
I'm Sandra Holt, as you know, from the class of 1974.
Hi, I'm Sharon Leonard, class of 79.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Egypt Pringley, and I also serve as the Associate Director of Alumni Relations here at the AADC. I would like to welcome you all. Thank you for coming.
Betty Gelden, class of 53. Hi, I'm Julia Confideri, class of 1986.
Hi, I'm Tina Gordon from class of 72. I'm on the AADC board and I'm in charge of marketing and communications. So we hope you all heard about this through our efforts. Heather's also on my committee. And it's nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces, fresh blood. This is good. So welcome.
Good morning. I'm so excited. It's a great day here.
She is.
AADC, Denise Busby, class of 76, also a board member and member of the nominating committee.
Hi, I'm Karen McLean-Terrain, class of 73, also an AADC board member, and just delighted that you all have decided to spend your Saturday with us. I have seen Jean speak before, and you are in for a real treat.
Yeah.
Lisa Mizrahi-Cato, class of 03, and I look at non-traditional age student, obviously. I'm delighted to see everyone here today. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to get together and hear a wonderful speaker and to be together.
And now I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, woman that's eating again. So I'm going to introduce our esteemed guests. We're very pleased to have him today. Eugene Jean Armstead Jr., great-grandson of Hitler. No. Hitter? Hyder. I want to say Hyder. Okay. Great-grandson of Hyder Armstead, born 1855, and Harriet Fortune, 1855 birth as well, of Bowling Green, Virginia. He's also the great-grandson of Samuel Miller, born 1868, and Flora Williams, born 1867, of Blackstone, Virginia. He's the current president of AAHGS and JC and has been researching his genealogy since 1998. Like many adults, he regrets not being more attentive and inquisitive while his elders were available. Jean was awarded a basketball scholarship, which allowed him to fulfill his father's dream of having his children graduate from college. Jean missed his undergraduate ceremony from Rutgers College in 1973 because he was playing basketball for the USA AAU team in Brazil, but got to see his father smile when he earned his MBA from Rutgers Graduate School of Business in 1977. Jean married the lovely and wonderful Laura Tony Howell, his father's sweetheart, and AADC participant. And that union produced a daughter and 2 sons, as well as a grandson. Armstead's genealogy research has always combined both his wife and his own ancestors. He often refers to his efforts being our children's tree. He initially populated the tree with 42 names, birth, wedding, and death dates, which his mother provided off the top of her head.
Yeah.
Of that information, only 2 of those dates were incorrect. The genealogy hook was set, and when armed with a name, age, ports of departure and arrival, and a date, Gene found the ship's manifest that recorded his wife's great-grandmother's arrival in America. Later, Gene found newspaper articles that corrected family lore about her great-grandfather's arrival. As youngsters in the family reach various milestones, Gene likes to present the youth with a report that starts with themselves and traces their ancestry back as far as its recording, explaining that if we know where we came from and on whose shoulders we stand, we'll have an idea of which direction to go. Gene knows that to complete our research processes, documentation and practices are important. However, successful solutions also come from unexpected sources, whether it be an innocent comment, ignorant question, or search for understanding. We must be alert enough to realize it is relevant. Without further ado, Gene.
Thank you, and that concludes my talk. I'm going to try to address today just a general concept of genealogy and what I found. Push right button. Start with the definition. Genealogy, according to dictionary.com, is a record or account of the ancestry or descent of a person, family, or group. Study of your ancestors, I like to say, basically for today, it's basically searching for who we are. That didn't work. Why is it important? Well, in various cultures, it was how power and property was passed down from one generation to the next. And often you find that the path would often be directed by those who had a little more oomph, or those who had a devious mind and decided to eliminate people. But it's basically a record of how we make our trek through time. One of the things I found interesting is the pharaohs in Egypt were always talking about who they were descended from, and all of them were descended from gods. But the interesting thing is, a father would be descended from one god, and the son would be descended from a different god. Not sure how that works, but it did for them. And if you look in the Bible, you've got a lot of begats, and there's stuff in Genesis, First Chronicles, Ruth, and Matthew, and they all are trying to trace back to somewhere. I haven't had anybody be able to tell me what they were trying to find. My assumptions are people like Abraham and Jesse and Isaac, but I'm not sure. I talked to 7 or 8 people, and I've got 9 or 10 different theories. There's 2 forms of research. Analog, which is a hard copy, and part of the handouts today, there's a set of sheets that are in there, charts that are there for hard copy, and it involves travel. The digital method is electronic. You go on the internet, you can search different databases, and you can get remote access to different things. One of the areas that I like is the Library of Virginia. If you have family there, you can go in there about the library site, county section, and it identifies all the microfilm that they have. And you can interlibrary those loans from the Library of Virginia to your local library. Saves hundreds of bucks. Hard copy, and some of the forms that you do have there is the family group sheet, the ancestry chart, worksheet, step family, ancestry chart, and all those are fun. But one of the things that you do have to have, and part of this is probably too late to read, but you have in the ancestry chart, I filled out my information. If you're going to do this, you should have pretty good penmanship. You need to be able to spell, and there's some things in there spelled correctly. The challenge is if you have to make an adjustment here. And for this purpose, I only went back to my grandparents. And electronic copy places like Ancestry.com, Ancestral Quest, they have software where you can put the information in and it organizes it for you. These aren't the search engines. This is a software to track and maintain a record of your family. I do know some people who have 9, 10 binders of information. They make me jealous because they have that much information, but it's a challenge to keep track of. This is an analog copy. I use Family Tree Maker, and this is my beginning of my tree. And as you can see, it is a little easier to read. One of the challenges that has been pointed out to me a couple of times is I'm not sure who my father's father was. And for some people, that's an issue, just because of the way we generally judge each other. That would probably label him as a bastard. But my feeling is that every person who's a bastard was as nice as my father was, this would be a much better world. The data we want to try to collect is the who, what, where, and when. And those are the basic cards in your world deck. Bonus cards are how and the why. Often you can find out why something occurred, it assists your research because that's the mindset that you adapt as you start to look at things. And how. I know my father came north from Virginia. I'm not sure how he got here. I'm also not sure why he came. Some theories that I'll probably address later. But having that information will give me a better idea of where I could look for some additional information. Who, what, when, where. 2 instances. If Grandma was born in Nottoway County, Virginia in 1886, my search should be focused there. I happened to go to the county courthouse in Nottoway before I found out about the library of Virginia, and was able to uncover some documents. If great-grandma and great-grandpa were married in New York City in 1898, the initial search could be targeted. And this is that was the one that sort of set the hook for me. But you have barriers as far as trying to do your research. One of the things is family lore. What are the stories that the family has been telling that get embellished, reduced, modified, so that they're, you might be in the right state, the wrong city, or the wrong side of town. And that's what family provides. But then there's things that society provides, where either information wasn't reported accurately, or again, was indulged. You also have errors that people make in record keeping. And then there's what I refer to as then versus now. And I will address that a little later. 3 family lore items that I selected from my wife and my family. Walter Howell was killed by the husband of a white woman with whom he was having an affair. That's the first one. Second one, William Edwards died in 1826. The rumor was, 1926. Rumor, he didn't die. He left and started in the family. And the third one, Martin Van Buren Hamilton, was arrested and detained when he went to meet his betrothed. Starting with, whoa. Now, I know all of you can read that one. This is the 1930 census, and down here in the corner, knowing that people would be hard to read, I magnified it. But it's Walter and Kate Howell. And here, just to get an idea of how things change, Kate spelled with K, and this column over here, this column here, indicated that he owned this property. Now, this is something that I've looked at this for years, and then said, well, maybe I can start doing some research on deeds. And I'll get to that at some point in time. But I know something that I can do. So you identified the Walter and Kate are married. You go to the marriage registry, and the box down here is hard to see. But what it basically says is that in Grafton, Virginia, Walter James Howell Colored married Catherine with a C. Virginia, and how's that last name spelled?
Aylstock, Aylestock.
Thank you. I have not pronounced that name right yet. But that's okay. I got it written down. I don't need
He's Pennsylvanian.
So I find Catherine's death certificate, which was interesting. It says that she fell down the stairs and possibly fractured her frontal bone. Now, I'm a fan of CSI.
And forensic file, I'm afraid.
So I had, I got a whole other set of questions about this. But the biggest thing I got from one of the bigger things I got from the death certificate was her parents' information, which allowed me to know, I'm sorry, it's there, but it allowed me to go back and find information on her parents. So other documents, perfect source of information, death records and marriage certificates. This is Walter's. And as you can see over here, it was homicide by gunshot wound.
Wow.
And
He's 52 years old.
a thought I had just now is, why is the rest of this typed in that camera? Why is this camera? But again, you got parental information here. And here we captured his mother's maiden name.
I'm noticing something. Your question about the handwriting, look at the top. Dr. Cook or Peck or Mr. White is written in. So maybe Mr. White wrote that after Dr. Peck typed that. See, Mr. White signed
The
it.
acting coroner.
Acting coroner.
Okay. So,
More investigation.
always pushing forward. Well, what I found out was, in looking at it, I found a newspaper article that indicates, yes, he was shot by Mr. Rozier, but it was a case that Walter struck him, and he went back for an apology with the shotgun on him. Walter didn't apologize, he shot him.
And you told them that.
And there's no reference to anybody's husband or wife. That's where things get a first family lore. Second one, this is my grandfather's death certificate. Obviously he did die. And, mitochondrial. Okay.
What?
Malignant disease of the lungs.
Myocardial insufficiency.
That was
Yeah,
contributing.
malignant, disease of the lungs. Malignant disease of lungs.
Now, one of the things I did doing some additional research, he worked in the steel factories out near Pittsburgh. So that may have been a contributing factor. But he did die in 1926, so he didn't move and didn't have another family someplace. Again, you come with information on his parents now. John, I can handle. I'm not sure what this says. That's one of those handwriting things where you could, I don't know, green. I'll take all suggestions because you now have to look at everything.
Is it Gardner?
No.
Could be. We'll go with anything. But it's a case of someone making a mistake and not adequately identifying the information. So now you just have another mystery on your hand. When I found out about my grandfather's death, my mother had already passed, and I gave the information to my aunt. And my sister and my cousin were a little upset with me because they thought that finding out or seeing this information on his death would be upsetting. And what came to my mind was, she'd be more upset to know that he was, ran off and had another family or that he died. So I felt relatively comfortable giving the information.
And the informer was his grandmother, so it wasn't like he snuck off and died somewhere.
That's the second one. The third was the one that actually got me hooked. So this is the information on Margaret Sinclair Wood. And again, I know you can read all that information. But she was 25, domestic Scottish, came from Glasgow. She had $3 in her pocket, which I thought was interesting. And she came, and the reason for her coming was to marry her intended husband, Martin Hamilton. But then I noticed that the date of her arrival was the 8th, and they didn't get married until the 13th.
Now, did she know Martin? Do you know?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Because I don't think I have an article here.
What's the significance of the 8th to the 13th?
Wow.
She arrived on the 8th. They didn't get married until the 13th.
Can I interject? The significance is that the rumor was that they got married the day she arrived or the day after she arrived. And there was this week between her arrival date and the marriage date.
And also that he had been arrested when he went to pick her up.
Right.
But this is an article that I found in the New York World, and it indicates that the senior.
Dusky, yes.
Dusky.
And this is 1898.
It's pretty.
But it indicates that she was detained, and that was the reason why they didn't get married right away. There's something else here.
There,
I do have a copy of this article and some papers over here. But it was for finding it was one of those things with those additional hooks that encouraged me to keep looking for stuff. And for a long time, this was the only article I knew about. But then we looked in a different newspaper archive and we found several more articles. And if you notice there's New York, Philadelphia, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And then in looking, there was an article that we had found that I since misplaced the digital copy of it. But its title was Maggie Gets Her Man. And when I found that one, it'd be, one of those dub moments. To some degree, she was a celebrity. She was in several newspapers. Now, last night, trying to find that one, I came across an article in German. So she was, a celebrity.
Those years correct?
yeah, 1898.
No,
Oh,
they're not.
1898.
I'm thinking 1998, and the title was Allowed to Marry Her.
1898, right. Yeah.
Make it up, we had to fix up.
Yes.
Recently I got a copy of their
Marriage
marriage certificate. Again, we come up with additional information. It confirmed from some information we had that she came from Scotland. We got her parents' information confirmed. He was born in Buffalo, New York.
How did they meet?
And that's what.
Yeah,
I was just-
Go back to the article. Go back to that. He said previous article.
Yeah.
Down,
That was too small.
on the, down
Yeah,
in the last last few paragraphs.
a year ago, it was sent to Scotland for 4 months.
His company sent him there. He was there putting in sidewalks.
He was married my brother.
Mhm. Yeah, we're still looking for that.
Well, one of the things that in the articles I found last night, they referenced the fact that his brother was coming back with his spouse, so they got married in Scotland. Which that'll give you some multiple Scotland. But that's the way it worked. And there's, in other articles, you find out that he had permission from her parents to send her.
There, lots of-
It's in this one.
Yeah, her father and mother approved.
Okay,
And he had a home for it.
And yeah, he, actually, the manifest says that the address they were going to was in Philadelphia, but that he had made a home for her in New York. Yeah, he already had an apartment, setting up a house in New York.
So that was the draw that she was marrying someone of wealth?
No, she was marrying someone of color, and she was white, she was Scottish.
Got it.
And the authorities on Ellis Island tried to convince her that she should not go with him. And some of the other articles, it's clear, we're passing them around after a while, because they're very
I
interesting.
thought he married her for her money, because she had that
We got $3.
I
I should have known, Keita. I took that.
I have no idea.
It might have actually been a considerable sum at that
yeah.
Everybody on that had, they had to report how much money they had, and recorded them.
No money on it. As a housekeeper or something like that. So it was 2 weeks, probably.
2 weeks. 2 weeks worth of, yeah, 2 weeks worth of work in your, money in your pocket.
So Tina's theory might actually be right.
But she wasn't a baker. That's the big part. What she had family law, there's 2 errors. This is followed by enumerators. If you're looking at the census, transduced by the index or whoever it is that's compared to the internet. The enumerator's handwriting, it was just like that. What was it? It might be published. That's just it had an issue. The family wasn't picked up in the census, or the enumerator didn't pick them up. There's all kinds of challenges that she run into. And of course, the differences between fact and family law. This is a 1900 census out for Roanoke, Virginia. And here you have the family of the Howards. And the interesting thing is, when you go to the next census, 1910, in Narrow, West Virginia, you have the family here, and they're the Howells. And just so you know, that's Tony's grandfather. Our presumption is that Fillmore, who gave the information previously, may have mumbled. He was listed as not being able to read or write. So whatever the enumerator wrote down, he couldn't confirm it. Looked right. Had an H at the beginning. So for 10 years, they were recorded as a different name. This information was what got my son interested, because he accompanied us to the Library of Virginia. When we first went, he fought us tooth and nail. Didn't want to go, please, this and that. After he found the Howards, and after that, I was like, okay, what time are we leaving? He was ready to go. But you have to be open-minded, and it's not like the commercials say, you don't go into Ancestry, find a leaf, click on it, and find your entire family. A friend of mine, a classmate of mine, Greg Jackson, I looked up his father, who was Red Jackson. When I first put him into the search, I came up with 1.2 million hits. I knew all those weren't his fathers. You have to start identifying information that allows you to eliminate people. It's a lot of fun. I'm trying to remember when I have this. Oh, I know it was. With the misspellings. I was a co-leader in the 2010 census. And when I was sitting with my crew to go out and catch those people who had not sent in their information, one of the things I stressed, because I'd already been doing genealogy, was that when somebody gave you a name, regardless regardless of what the name was, ask them to spell it. Because you never know. I had a young lady who got very upset because she said, I'm intelligent, I know how to read and write. No, I don't need to ask that. So I asked her, how do you spell Sarah? She spelled it with the H. One of the other young ladies that was in the training session said, I don't spell my own H. So she was encouraged. When she came back for our next meeting, she was elated because there was some common name that she thought she knew how to spell, and this person spelled it totally differently. So she was, and I never had a problem with her after that. But as I mentioned to Erin, I was going to mention her in the program. Our daughter is Erin. They should not have given me this format. But she has a girlfriend who changed her name to make it a little more unique.
Oh, what?
Elaine. Oh, no, she pronounces it Erin. She pronounces it Erin, but she spells it like
I think it's pretty.
But wouldn't it depend on what's on their birth certificate? So I have a friend Diane, and she spells her name Dyanne. Her birth certificate is Diane. She just wanted to be unique.
It should be, because this young lady went to court and had to.
Oh, okay.
But that's part of the challenge. My wife has a family who called everybody by their middle name. So now you're looking for someone who you know is William,
Right.
and their first name's actually George.
On my birth certificate, my name is Denise, Denese, with an accent over the first E.
Yes.
And that's because my mother was born in Martin Hospital in Newark. My mother's roommate was French, Denise. So my mother didn't know I was going to be this type of person. She struck the Denise with the accent and made it the I.
Oh.
Okay.
So it's true.
All kinds of fun, and then you also have some of the more interesting phonic names that we're coming up with today. I think that's Taisha. I am the world's second worst speller.
Who's the worst?
I don't want to find it.
Oh, that's funny.
No, that's not true. You're not. For your documentation search, where do you look? Obviously, the census, you ask the state and county vital statistics, where you get their births. Births, deaths, marriages, cemetery records, manumission, and black birth books, which came out through the end of slavery. Because if you were a free person, you had to have your manumission paper with you, or else they could return you to slavery. And sometimes you had your manumission paper with you, and they returned you to slavery anyway. The Freedmen Bureau has a lot of information, and again, deed, wills, and newspapers. But the big thing is you leave no stone unturned. You check out people's neighbors, who are my neighbors, who are my grandparents' neighbors in 1920, and the other day in 1930, because that may give you a lead. I found my great grandparents looking for the people that I thought he had been a slave for, whose farm he worked on. I was looking up the name. I did not find them on the first page, but when I looked on the next page of the census, they were my grandparents, my great grandparents. So it was lucrative. The other thing you want to do is you want to document as much information as you can. If you find the information, you pass it on, there's no documentation, it's no different than family work. So you need to be able to point somebody to it so someone coming behind you can find the same information. And that's the newspapers, some of the articles we have here, it's got the indication of what the paper was and the date at the top. Whose family Bible was. And that's something that's personal, but if you can identify whose family, who it was and where you found it, that is documentation. And obviously the census, statistics, and all those good things. But you want to make sure you have the date, the book and page, file number, the author, anything that will point someone to that information. and this is basically what it says, confirms your research. It'll allow you to go, publish something and be able to say, no, it's not plagiarized because this is where I got the information from. And again, pack it and leave it someplace so someone, your family coming behind you can find it. Then versus now. One of the things that it took me a while to remember and understand is you can't look in the 1800s with a 2017 mentality. There are things that are happening now that those folks didn't even imagine. And can you imagine life without a refrigerator?
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to get the ice.
The Iceman.
But the icebox was patented in
When?
1802. What did people do before that? I mean, yes, you had root cellars and there's other things that you did, but I mean, what would the commercial for Hot Pockets look like? So there's things, you have to sometimes change your mindset when you're looking for things because people didn't do things the way you want. And then, where did people go for vacation? Well, did they take a vacation? When they took a break, where did they go? Was it over to another family member's house? And then one of the things that's very prevalent today is when someone passes, someone goes in and just cleans stuff out. They just, these boxes of stuff, they toss them.
1-800 got junk.
What's in the boxes? One of the things that I talked about a few years ago, you have to do it is visiting family with a scanner and laptop and to start scanning the information that they have so it doesn't get lost. And one day we're gonna make that happen.
You heard it right here.
And then the other question, who's around that you can ask? And it's not just a case of asking for dates and times. Ask about lifestyle, what they did, why they did it. Churches were a very prevalent thing because everybody felt that they had to have that relationship. The church provided them with information on what was happening in the community. It gave them an opportunity to visit with friends and relatives and even talk about the planning processes. And one of my big things now is, what are we leaving for the people coming behind? A handout that I thought I had sent over and I didn't will be available for the follow-up. But it lists some of the books that you can get that ask you questions about yourself that you can pass on to your grandkids, your kids. We need to be leaving them breadcrumbs of some kind, so if they want to find us, they can. Because when I think about doing all this work and then just having it evaporate, it's unsettling. But we do need to leave something for the folks coming behind. And hopefully, with the day, I've encouraged some people who haven't started genealogy to start them. And those who have, want to keep encouraging them. And that's my presentation.
I have a question that I know is very specific to me, maybe in this room or maybe somebody else has the same question. This method works in the US where there are doctors. A lot of us are immigrants. I was not born here. And I was actually born in Egypt.
Oh, super.
And most of my father's family is gone. There's nobody even asked. And this came up for me last week, actually. I was going through old pictures and I found a picture of an aunt and a cousin who never left Egypt. They stayed. We left in the 60s because of Jewish. I'm not sure and all that. So she stayed behind with her son. And, I tried to start like looking up, you know, anything about them. And of course, nothing came up.
What was their lifestyle like? Was there a place that they went and worshiped or?
I know nothing about them. My dad died when I was 16. There's nobody to ask. And and documents, I guess, in Egypt in like the 1950s and 60s are not going to be. So I guess, I know that this is specific to me and I don't know if you explored trying to find documentation outside of the country when you don't have anything to start with.
Well, do you have names?
No, actually. I don't know, like, I know my father's mother's maiden name.
Okay.
But I don't know the last name of the sister who left behind because she married and took a different name. And her son obviously have a different name. So I know their first names, but I don't know their last.
I would try to grab family Ancestry.com's international package during this trial period. They give you a 7 or 30-day trial. And during that time, I put every name that you would think that the family might go by into focusing on Egypt. And I would just download information. It's still being recorded. But I would download as much information as possible so you now have documents, digitized documents. And then I go back and start trying to weed through that, see if there's anything that looks familiar.
Yeah, all I know is that he was an Olympic athlete. And on the back of one of the pictures, she had put in the years. From what I could read, it's really difficult to read. So I did try to Google, Olympic athletes in that year. And there were two results that had the same first name. But I could not find any more information about either one of them.
Who was he competing for?
I would imagine.
I would
I mean,
approach,
that's actually a good question because I looked only for Egyptian athletes. But
I'd approach the Egyptian Olympic Committee because they have to have documentation of who these people were and where they were.
Do you know the sport?
I'm not positive. I thought that I did because the family story about Sammy is very, it's ironic because he was a champion swimmer, to my understanding, who died by drowning in the bathtub.
Whoa.
Because in Egypt they don't have hot water heaters necessarily. They would use gas heaters. And the story that I heard was that, he was overcome by the gas fumes and drowned in the bathtub. But I don't know what year he died. He was fairly young though. He probably was not more than 30 or so.
Your newspaper should have somebody should have taken this story. And then if I have no idea what their police records were like, but someone should have some indication. Because that would have been something that would have been reported to the police.
Yeah, you would think, right?
CSI would be on that.
Yeah, but we're talking Egypt in the 1960s.
You have Egypt in the 1960s. Your excuse me, your ancestor or your relative who was in the Olympics was before.
My father's sister's son.
Oh, okay, so he would be more modern. Do you have a name from like your father's father or grandfather?
Well, I know my father's last name, and that would come from that. Would probably be the same across. And I know my mother, my paternal grandmother's maiden name.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little about Family Search, the Family Search website? Can I?
Yeah. So we do.
But you said Egyptian, right? You're Jewish. Would he not be a Jewish athlete versus an Egyptian athlete?
There we go. You're welcome.
But you only compete for country.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, definitely family is Jewish.
Right.
But you only
I
compete for
assumed that
country.
he would have been. Yeah, we left Egypt when I was 3.
Well, you don't remember?
Oddly enough, I do have vague memories of him,
Wow.
just like his presence.
Understood.
Yeah. Lisa, do you know the town or the temple? Because usually in Jewish background, the temple generally keeps very good records of everyone's
My father was
lineage.
born in Cairo.
Okay.
That I know, but I don't know, and I know I was born in Cairo, so my parents, my mother was born in Alexandria, but my father was born in Cairo, and I imagine that we lived in Cairo since that's where I was.
Yeah, but if you know a neighborhood where you could then begin to narrow down to the temples and that, yeah, that's usually a really great start.
And then what you do is you sit with people in your brainstorm. You know, you just try to get as many ideas as you can. And, as I said before, you don't know if you have to have a comment. The question may be the key to getting finding information.
What's the last name?
I don't know.
Your father's.
My father's last name is Mizrahi. Mizrahi, Mizrahi, which is the Hebrew equivalent of Snitch.
All right, well, we're gonna do this anyway.
Yeah, and his first name.
Oh wait, you have to do it on the one. You have to do it on this one, otherwise it won't show up. So you have to look up there while you do it. Yeah. So if you move the mouse is now all the way over there. Yeah.
When we started looking up on,
Mizrahi.
see what comes up. Any other questions?
I have a very basic question.
Sure.
A child of a first cousin, is that your second cousin or your first cousin removed?
I think in the packet that you have, there's a bridge.
I don't know his birth year.
That talks about relationships.
I'm just
Yes.
putting.
Oh.
And I did that because I put it in Family Tree Maker and it tells me. I tried figuring it out one time and got such a headache.
And you
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
Thank you.
I have a question. I've been working on my own family tree, and I've gotten back to those that were slaves. Now, my question is, how can I go back further to find out who their parents were? I've gotten back to like about 1805 with one ancestor. And I know he was here in Central Jersey because I have his manumission papers. Because they had to free them at age 25 at that particular time. His manumission papers were 1830, which meant he was born probably in 1805. How can I find out who his parents were?
That is a challenge. Do you?
Forget about it.
No.
don't forget about it.
That's not even in my DNA. I would say.
I haven't done the research to get back that far. I have two cousins who did a lot of the research, so mine is oral history from them.
Understood.
But
I would say, looking at the manumission papers, doesn't it identify who the owner was?
I don't have a hand on that, but my cousins do.
And I start looking with the owner's recording that he had to do for his taxes. He had to identify how many slaves he had, and I start working with that. And then I'm the president of call it AADC, the African American Historical and Genealogical Society. New Jersey chapter, and we got a few thousand people in the United States who know that we can pose that question to.
You use the terminology, say that again to me,
Manumission.
manumission.
Yes, that was the paper that you got when you became free. And it was, you had to carry it wherever you went because there were still some people that were enslaved. And that was your indication that you were a person that had been set free. And there were people who would find you, you had your papers, and they ignored the papers. And then, you could be shipped someplace and never be heard from again. There was a gentleman out in North Brunswick who was who had researched Judge Van Whipple. And what the judge was doing was he was sentencing people of color to 5 years imprisonment in Louisiana. And basically what he was doing was he was sentencing them to slavery. He was sending them down to his, I think it was either his brother or his brother-in-law's farm to work. So, I mean, there were all kinds of schemes to.
Oh, talking about that, because my family's from Mississippi and Georgia, so it's kind of hard to even go back that far. I mean, because like the names and the names on the birth certificate and the names were like my grandmother, her name was Ruth Hill, which is very common. And she married a Hill, but when I look at her birth certificate, it says Bertha May Sanders. It's a totally different name.
Yes. And one of the things, we were at a conference in Georgia, and I went to my grandfather, who was born in Georgia, and I was told the archives that they didn't even maintain records for people of color until 1910.
Oh, that would explain why I only saw 1930 paperwork.
And
the census.
And it is a challenge. There are some. I can give you the name of a couple of people in there, our Georgia chapter, who might be able to give you some help in finding information or directing you to information. Because just as things are different between then and now, we do things totally differently in different parts of the country. I'm glad my family came out of Virginia because they started documenting their slaves as people earlier than anybody else in the South. Yes, ma'am.
So going backwards, so when you first started this, kind of how was where did you start first? You started with family, oral history, trying to document as many names as you could, places, things like that. Then what was maybe second line, third line places to get reference information?
Mine was more hit or miss. The way I got started was my mother-in-law had indicated that she wanted to do her family history, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. Went to a computer fair, bought a copy of Family Tree Maker, and gave it to her for Christmas. The next year, I went back to the same computer fair, forgot I gave her Family Tree Maker the year before.
It was on sale.
I bought it, my wife said, you gave it to her last year, so I put it on my computer. My mother was up for the holidays, and stood over my shoulder, just gave me names and dates and all kinds of information. And of all the information she gave me, there were only two that were incorrect. She did all that off the top of her head. But then it was a case of just identifying a person and seeing, how much information could I get on that person. The time I was using the census and the information on family quest, family and ancestry. the thing that started happening back then was, since they were updating the information, I'd look for somebody in March, and there'd be no information, and then I could go back to look for them in October, and the information would be there. So it's a case of, I don't believe in, trying to track one person all the way through, because, you get distracted. So I build in a distraction. I look for 2 or 3 people at a time. I look for, as I'm gaining information on my relative who lived on, 3rd Street, I'm looking to see who the neighbors are. Because it may be a neighbor who leads me to them next time. So, is there a pattern? Mine is basically just for any document that is out there that might have a family name on it or information, I look for it. And depending upon how I feel on a given day, that needs to be dependent on how and where I look. Right now I've got 5 reels of microfilm that I got from the Library of Virginia. And I'm looking at deeds. I forgot to get the index for the deeds, so I'm looking at every deed. But I'm looking for information anything that'll give me family names.
My family's from Georgia. What's Georgia state like in terms of getting that information?
It's tough. And I can put you in touch with somebody from our organization down there who's been through their documents and knows them a lot better than I do. Because that is, it's easy for me to tell people what's happening here in New Jersey because I've been looking. And going back to, I looked online to see what I could get from Georgia, which one I did. When I went to the archives, they told me that they didn't do documents for 1910. I still looked at some information anyway, and there is information out there, just that they haven't. They didn't track births. You may find there's also mentioned in a deed. Everybody had to pay taxes, so this is the number of slaves they had. Sometimes they gave names. Sometimes it was just 20-year-old male, left-handed, 20-year-old female, right-handed, that type of stuff. But it's a challenge.
Can I add something? When we went to the Library of Virginia, which has a card catalog record of slave ownership and marriages and births for Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, because parts of the country belong to different states at different times. So some Georgia records are actually in Virginia. The original records are in Virginia. We could have stayed there 3 weeks and not touched on the edge of, the family history that we were looking at.
And that was the library in Virginia.
The Library of Virginia on the main drag in Richmond. Mm-hmm. But they do, as Gene mentioned, he gets fiche. They do library loan. You don't have to go down there. Their library will loan the fiche to your library, and for a period of 5 weeks or something like that.
3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks.
How do you do that?
You can call the Library of Virginia and just tell them that's what you want to do. They'll walk you right through it there. I've never experienced a more cooperative group of researchers. When you're in there and you're looking and you can't find, they will go to the stacks with you. They will help you go through the fiche. They just have really good staff there that is very supportive of trying to find history in and around Virginia, but they have a lot of history, slave history information.
Are you still looking for this?
So
I was going to say, why don't you go to the Library of Virginia website?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, all right.
And
You can do it in another tab.
Well, before you move off this, I just wanted to point out this website, thefamilysearch.org, is it still free? It's a free research website for And it's this website of the Mormon Church. And they have more information than Ancestry.com. Ancestry.com goes to family search for information. So you would want to, and the fact that it's free and Ancestry charges you, this is a good place to start. And I just looked up Lisa's father, and that was his death record that we came up with. Now he was born in in Cairo. So we got his birth. He was born in Cairo, but he died in the United States. So we did find his United States death record, but this is international.
Did it list his parents?
77.
Oh,
No, he died in 77.
Just the.
I think his age.
Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
Is there a website where we can go to get some census without having to?
And we'll go on the Virginia website. Understand.
Family search is one.
Okay.
And I mean, you do have to do some playing around. Most libraries anymore have access to the library version of Ancestry.
Okay.
And the nice thing about that is, for a while I was printing things, I ran across one where I was able to send the documents home. I sent it to my email, so I had it, and I didn't have to carry a thumb drive.
What's that site, libraries?
LVA.virginia.gov.
Okay, now will it tell you what information you need to provide,
I'm sorry, I
like
can't.
counties and things like
If
www.lva.
you go to the site,
that? It'll tell you.
there's a you can get to the site here.
LVA.virginia.gov.
And then behind you go, if you go to county, the counties,
Counties.
yes.
Okay, it's back up.
Okay, so it didn't like me to doing that. Take it out and
Search.
yeah, search.
I'm still trying to figure out how to use this laptop.
Maybe just put in county
Just county.
instead of counties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the name of a particular county?
No, what it'll do is it'll give you a list of all the counties.
County and city records on micro.
There you go. Oops.
Maybe I'll find out a related deal. I have an Armstead.
There you go.
Armstead and Fortune back in life.
Armstead and a Fortune?
Not an Armstead, but Fortune.
Huh.
If you could highlight one of those, I mean,
Let's go here.
yeah. Let's go down. Is that the bottom? Keep going.
Let's
Fort County.
And there's king and
Oh,
queen.
wow.
Very good.
Click on K at the top here.
Okay.
King.
King and queen.
King and Queen,
Scroll down.
Wow. Wow.
1691.
Keep going. Keep going.
Oh,
This is a
wow.
list of all you get the microfilm reel number and what's on the reel. So if you wanted,
Could you look at it online without getting a fee?
no, you have to, they will send that to you. But the thing is, my library doesn't charge me for it. And I think if they were gonna charge us like a $3 fee to get it,
Phenomenal.
which is a lot less than the gas to get down there. The food while I'm
Staying
down
for
there.
5
That $3 thing is staying in my mind today.
It is a
But
lot.
you got these books that gives you an index, so you'll get the last names of people and where their will and information is located.
Does it go earlier than the middle 1800s?
All depends upon county what they have.
Well, that said 1691. Yeah, sure did. Yeah, but I was looking for back in the 18.
Well, this also says.
Is this county?
No, not that county, Orange County, or Well, I don't know, the Orange County or with the,
Well, we might be related because I've got has relatives from Orange County.
Who knew this returning to a
Well, because if you see it over here, you have to move it all the way over here. Because this screen is really here.
Oh,
Yeah.
learn something new every day. I spent the last week with my grandson, and he showed me that I could use this to do some of the things that I do.
So,
There you go.
My 9-year-old.
so that's just, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so all along, let's see, so I have two routes, I knew about two routes. The Caribbean side, and then my father's either Dutch West Indies or Trinidad. My father's father, not sure.
Okay.
All right. He married a woman from Carolinas. Unfortunately, not being communicating with someone who's either the South or the North.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm sitting next to a choir member, and all along I'm thinking 90% Caribbean, right? My little grandma. And then I'm sitting next to my choir member with the same last name, all South Carolina. So either grandpa was a Rolling Stone. So how do I find out about Buzzard?
One of the challenges that we have is people kept secrets.
Oh, yeah.
When I
keep them secret.
You right?
I just saw my family tree, I'm not sure who my father's father was. When I asked his sister what you could tell me about their grandfather, I'm not sure if anybody else has had an experience where someone pursed their lips and started to hum.
no, the thing you get is what you want to know about.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't say a word.
So how do I find out about the Caribbean part?
There's, interestingly enough, the Mormon Church has cataloged a lot of that stuff. So Ancestry may have some of it. They'll probably encourage you to get the international version
Of the,
of Ancestry.com.
okay, advanced history.
International.
Ancestry, okay.
But prior to doing that, I would check the library and find out if they've got a copy
Okay.
and if their version is international. I got this thing about paying for services sometimes when it doesn't serve me well.
So what about I've heard, stories about proprietary information, and that once you enter your information onto some of these sites, then they claim ownership of it. Is that true? Is it a problem? Because, are you putting in information that is really sensitive, or is it just pretty much public information?
Well, most of the information I'm looking, it's a case of looking for stuff, so I'm putting in people's names and checking. I'm not writing my information. And if I find it, they've already got some information. That's the thing that the thought that things are private anymore is crazy.
Right.
Because about 5 years ago, I got an email flag that they wanted to make sure my information was correct on the site. And they had everything from, my name, they had my social security number, they had all my phone numbers, they had all the phone numbers of the places I could work.
Wow.
And I had the option of making it private or leaving it be public. So I made it private, but that doesn't mean that.
It's not public somewhere else.
Yeah.
They got it somewhere.
So a lot of the stuff is out there.
Yeah.
To some degree, we have to rely on people having a certain amount of respect and hopefully not being dishonest. But as far as, are there people out there scamming you for information? Oh, yes. That's why a lot of these places, when they offer me a 30-day trial or whatever the case may be, I try to find out, are these people legit? Because they're going to go. One of the first things they're going to ask you for is a 30-day free trial, but we need your credit card number.
That's right.
So I try to find somebody else who's done it.
Yes.
Is it a problem? I'm not sure if it's a bigger problem than anything else that we're trying to deal with. But again, how can people ask questions? Because the way I look at something may be totally different than the way somebody else is. Yes, ma'am.
I haven't done any research in this area at all, so this may be, a silly question, but my great-grandparents came over from Russia and Poland, and I'm sure the last name was important at that time, so I'm just gonna guess. So do you know does Ellis Island have records of people who've come through?
That's where I found the manifest for Margaret Wood.
Oh, for the $3 lady.
Yes.
The heiress. The heiress.
Oh, the heiress.
Grandma never knew she was going to be referred to as the $3.
Oh, that's too funny.
The thing was, I was looking for as Margaret Sinclair Wood.
Okay.
And I looked at, knowing that they messed up names, I started, I switched the names around, tried to find something, and after hours, I gave up. Then I decided to look for under M. Wood, and I found Maggie. All the Margarets that I know were Peggy. I never heard of Maggie. And it wasn't until I looked at the manifest that found Martin Hamilton's name on it that I knew that was her.
Wow.
But that information, yes, you can look there.
I guess it would help to have a name, but it dawned on me during this discussion today, I still have one uncle who's alive, and he's in his 90s. He lives in California. And so I've written down a list of questions to ask him about his parents and his grandparents. I know the names of his parents, but I don't know anything about his grandparents, my great-grandparents.
Well, one of a challenge might be to ask him to remember specific things. If you get him to start talking about the general, so that, what did you do? Who was this? Where'd they go?
Yeah.
That type of thing. Eventually, the details will come back to him. But he may also be like last year, my mom's cousin died. She was 100 years old. And at 100, she's asking me about the things I did, the year before in her presence. So I'm like, I don't remember that. So you do have some people who have the fantastic memories for dates and times. I would say yes, engage him.
Yeah, I think sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I better call Uncle Sam pretty quick. Find out what he knows. At least the names. What were his grandparents' names? I have no idea, and everybody else is gone.
Where were the places that they
Yeah, everybody was in New Jersey, as far as I know. I don't know how they got to New Jersey.
You could start with, you start talking about places, and then see what you can expand.
Yeah.
How'd you get there?
Yeah, right, right.
It is one of those things that if we don't get on it soon enough, it's
too late. Yeah. Okay.
We ended up going out a box of pictures my mother had because we didn't know who people were. And we took over the relatives and had them look, and they didn't know who they were. So they were pictures of old people.
Sometimes you'll see a name written on the back, and
there was
you're like, well, who's that?
At least you got a name.
Right, right.
I'd asked her at one point in time, you could just use some post-its and you could just identify who these people are. Her response was, I know who they are.
And that's all that mattered to her.
Another one of the secrets, Protecting the innocent and the guilty.
Yes, dear.
Last week, being sort of having a lot of downtime, I looked through some of the information that we had found previous. And one of the things that struck me was that in addition to the geography of the states changing, the counties changed much more readily, much more frequently. And this sign I found in when I was looking at Franklin County, where I found some of my father's relatives, formed in 1785 from Henry and Bedford counties, and added to from Patrick County. So you have where we had been concentrating on finding certain factions of the family in a certain county, these counties were very often, where's my thing here? Very often overlapped. And this one, for example, this is Henry County. And right above Henry County was Bedford County. And just to the east of Bedford County was Franklin County. They were all right there together.
When we looked up King, it said what formerly Kent County. Pam noticed that it had a different name.
Yeah, and I found that over and over again. So these three counties, Henry, Franklin, and Bedford, I have been looking through Bedford County for the Callaways, and a lot of then I found that the one of the Callaways had married I'm forgetting the names, but anyway, 2 households before them on the census, there was her parents and all their siblings. And I had never noticed that before because it was a page before. And I had, when I went back, I said, oh, but this is a different county. And I hadn't been looking in that county. So I found some information. I started sending it to Jean, Jean said, would you please stop sending me stuff and just make pictures of it and bring it home when you got it. So that was something that's also significant. Where the
I know this has been fantastic. Jean, thank you. I was gonna say, don't stand because I don't want to talk to you. Thank you. We do have we love a party here. And we do have a modest party here. Thank you so much. Now, there are 2 bits of information I have to give you. There are some sheets that you need to look at, surveys, so we'll know what we need to bring to you next. And then, as always, for those of you who have not met Tina Gordon, there is always an after party. So the after party.
That's because of Heather, who you didn't meet either.
They will be adjourning over onto Route 1
on the border.
We're
going for tacos.
So if you want to keep the conversation going, over some tacos and margaritas, follow Tina on the border. And, again, thank you. This has been, the time has just flown. It has been so exciting. And we'll have to have you come back again.
Oh, did you pass those articles around? Just for people to take a look. Anybody who's hanging out for 5 minutes. I just think these articles are so. These are the articles.
Facebook friends, we so appreciate you coming. Come back and visit us again. Have a good day.
Because I was wondering if